And the topic for today's session is making STEAM education the route for early years. And before we begin, and before I introduce you to my panel, I would like to thank Early Child Development Forum for today's opportunity for allowing us to present this forum. We have Dr. Vasavi Acharya, who's the chairperson of ECDF, who's also the chairperson for Tender Petals, as well as DN Acharya Foundation. Thank you, ECDF and Dr. Acharya, for giving us this opportunity to discuss a very important topic. So let me introduce you to our panel for today. First on our panel, we've got Ms. Darcel Washburn. Could you please wave a hi to our audience? She's a British governess for 8 years. She's also a Montessorian educator as well as TEFL educator. So welcome on board. We're looking forward for this interesting conversation. Next on our panel is Ms. Dhanya Gitanjali Sasidharan. Welcome. She's the head of Key Stage 5 and a STEAM coordinator at GEMS Modern Academy, Kochi. Next on our panel is Ms. Priska Masia. She's the STEAM education manager. She's also the co-founder of RoboPlanet, where she talks about STEAM education, robotics, coding to children ranging from 5 to 15 years. So we've got quite an interesting panel. Now, before we go on further, we had another person on our panel, Mr. Indra, but unfortunately, due to ill health, he cannot join us. We wish for his speedy recovery. So, we're going to be talking about STEAM in early years. And we all know that the brain is the most important organ that develops. So today at our panel, I'm going to be posting a few rounds of questions, and we'll be giving our panel a time limit to answer them. And we have a lovely audience also. So all the audience present here, we're looking forward for questions. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat box for our panelists to answer at the end of the session. I will request everybody to be on mute so that we can hear the panelist who's speaking. We can hear the wonderful conversation and thoughts and views that they want to share. So let's begin our first round of questions. The first round of question is going to be a common question, and the common question is going to be posted to all the panelists. So here's my first question. I will first start with Ms. Darcel, then Ms. Dhanya, and then Ms. Trisha. That's going to be the sequence. So we all know that the brain is the most important organ, and it takes about the first 5 to 6 years to develop. So my question to the panel is that when the brain is such an important organ to develop, and the moment I say about STEAM learning, because STEAM is something very relatively new that in India we hear about. Globally, STEAM education has been there, but India is just the last few years that we hear about STEAM education, STEM education. So when I talk about STEAM education, could you tell me what are your thoughts on STEAM education? And could you very quickly tell me how important is it for early years brain development? Over to you, Ms. Darcel.
Well, thank you for having me. Well, for starting STEAM in the early years, for me, is like the most important thing, because the earlier that we can develop the child's brain in all sections of STEAM, and we're able to enhance critical thinking, we're able to develop creativity, all these different aspects. And the whole point is we want to develop future citizens of the world. That is what we're looking for, because we're living in a rapidly changing world. And in this world, technology is taking over, and we need forward-thinking people to push on for the world. So, we need to foster a generation of people who can really hone in on these skills. And, especially in the early years, the earlier we start, the better we can push them, the more we can mold them, the more that we can not only recognize certain areas that they can work on within the STEAM world, but as teachers, we can also learn about ourselves, So I feel that, we need to create an area of future development where yes, the brain is so powerful, but we can push it in all aspects.
No, that's a very wonderful thought. We are definitely creating future citizens. And like, I completely agree to what you said, the brain is limitless and we've got to push it to the best of its abilities. So the same question goes to Ms. Dhanya. What are your thoughts on STEAM education and does it really help early years brain development? Over to you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me. Okay, so STEAM for early years. So initially when it was STEAM, it was always about engineering and technology. Now it has come down to preschool, early years. Even a simple, say, sinking and floating experiment, which a 2.5 or a 3-year child can do, he or she will start questioning. So basically, a simple experiment will prompt questioning in the child. Or the child's analytical or thinking skills are getting developed. So the earlier we start with developing these skills, it's the better way to inculcate all these 21st century learning skills and everything. So STEAM-based learning basically it enhances the critical thinking capability. And next one, it's basically an inquiry-based learning. So the child will keep on thinking and questioning and finding out answers. So as Ms. Dassel mentioned, we're all creating future citizens, and future it's every day it's keeping on changing. And that for that change, we are, the human mankind, we are building them accordingly. That's my thoughts. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I completely agree when you say that yes, we're building future citizens, and STEAM is more about inquiry. So it builds a lot of curiosity, is what I understand is, and that's what we want in early years children. We want to build on that curious mind. We want them to explore the environment. So let me move on. Thank you so much. And let me move on to Ms. Priska. Ms. Priska, what are your thoughts on STEAM education and how does it help in the brain development? What are your thoughts on the same?
Yeah, thank you, Amrit, for the question. As we say, and we are talking for STEAM learning in early years, so we are talking about its main idea or essence. So I was reading some article, and there I read that experts tell us that 90% of all brain development occurs by the age of 5. So if we do not begin thinking about education in early years, our children are at risk of falling behind by the time they start kindergarten. So children early experience builds brain architecture and lays the foundation for one's lifelong thinking skills and approach to learning. Well, STEAM discipline involves not only content knowledge, but also robust thinking dispositions such as curiosity, inquiry, questioning, skepticism, assessment, and analysis. Plus, if I add on some more points on it, it also lays strong learning mindset and confidence when entering new information or challenges. So therefore, if we have to build strong, rock solid foundation, so we have to start right from the early age.
Well, I quite like that. Yes, we are definitely building architects, and the brain architecture is highly important. And exploration, experimentation, inquiry is something that all three of you all have mentioned. So I think helping them become more curious, helping them inquire and ask questions becomes really important for all of us. Thank you so much. We'll move on to our second round. In our second round, I will be asking each one of you a specific question, and each one of you will have about 10 minutes to answer that question. So my first question will be to Ms. Priska. Ms. Priska, how does STEAM curriculum actually work? If you could throw some light on it. Because I come from the preschool industry, and when I talk to my teachers, educators, maybe owners, the first thing when we talk about STEAM, they get pretty scared. Oh, do I have to invest money? Do I have to buy certain resources? Do I have to have a particular learning environment in the school or in the classroom to be specific? And whenever we talk about STEAM, to our educators and our preschool owners, there's a kind of scare, like, oh my God, it's mostly associated with investment. So could you throw some light on what are the resources that we require to implement a STEAM curriculum. And if most of these resources could be cost effective, would be great, so that more educators are encouraged to start implementing STEAM activities and STEAM curriculum. Over to you, Ms. Priska.
Thank you again, Amrit, for a very wonderful question to me. So I'll be sharing my screen along with my answer to this question. So if we talk about STEAM, before that, I just in one slide, STEM education is a way of teaching and is a way of learning. So if we incorporate STEAM education, if we incorporate A into STEAM, that is a STEAM education. That is arts. We are bringing in personal expression, empathy, meaning making, and purpose. The idea is to teach kids that they don't have to be only analytical or creative, but they can be both. So to be a successful both now and down the road, one must be both as an analytical thinker plus creative thinker, what I think. And STEAM shows kids that they don't have to pick one side of their brain or the other side of their brain, but they can use both side of the brain to solve any problem they face in their life. And if I just understand the STEAM education as every panelist over here is working in STEAM education, I want to just explain STEAM from a story. So here is my story that we can think STEAM education as an adventure. So think about that this is an adventure. We are not talking about STEM or STEAM, this is an adventure. And the most important part of adventure is journey. And our goal is to arrive at a particular destination. So we are all on different paths, but we have to take our own roads. We can take the road, but our destination of all our panelists or for our educators, our destination is the same. But because we think very differently, your prospects and my prospects are different, but working on a same education is the most challenging thing. So along this road, we made mistakes and sometimes we get lost. But this is where we learn the most. And this is where we begin to understand that it is okay sometimes to get lost. So if I say that we have some friends in the road and the friends are STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So just for an example, maybe I pick only arts and science. I do not pick maths, technology, engineering. These are the friends I found at road, and I like arts, I just pick that. I like science, I just pick that. But when I see in the end, however, when I have to when we finally arrive at our destination, we discover that this is not the end, but beginning to more questions and more adventure. Because when we start studying, when we start teaching, as I said in my first slide, that it is a way of teaching as a way of learning. So we are not only teaching the kids, we are not only teaching the planet, we are also learning side by side. So STEM education inspires us to explore the world and see it differently and work with each other to solve problems, to take risks, to learn from mistakes, and most importantly, what we are running for that is to change the world. So we have to change ourselves first. So that we are doing. So we are learning STEM by teaching kids. So the other question Amrit was asking, that does it require any specific resource or any classroom learning environment? So I think that if I talk about very small child, he's at home, not going to school, his home is the best environment to start STEM. Because a guardian or a mother, whatever she or he teaches, is the best environment he is getting. The only way is we have to give the right and correct knowledge to the child. Just for an example, that a small child, we generally get into counseling with the kids. So a small child who is interested in baking cakes, and he is baking cakes with her mother or her father. So while making the cake, he is using some ingredients, flour, sugar, milk, colors. So what he is trying to do, he is taking the ingredients and trying to put it on on a baking tub in some measurements. So where he is learning STEM skills, because he is learning measurements, that 2 cups of sugar, you have to keep it in the bowl. And he is learning, I would say he is learning science and technology, because he is using some gadgets or a device to cook that. He is using some chemicals so that he may choose the color according to it. And his arts is a specific thing, because he is creating something on the cake, on the cupcakes, to make that beautiful. So I would say that STEM skills required a correct environment. And moving further into it, STEM brings together 5 critical disciplines to create an inclusive learning environment that encourages all students to participate, collaborate, and problem solving. And this holistic approach encourages students to exercise both left and right side of brain, as I shared before, simultaneously, as they would need to do in this 21st century skill. They need to use left and right brain so that analytical thinking and creative thinking could be matched up. And if we move further, if we are doing a repetitive task, that is not anything but, as repetitive tasks are eroded by technology and outsourcing, the ability to solve novel problem has become increasingly vital. So what is the key for that? So the key is the innovation. So innovation is the key. Doing repeated tasks is not the innovation. And primary skills that are necessary in the 21st century, if I talk about that are critical thinking, communication, collaboration, creativity, and innovation. By teaching these 4 skills, what I think that we are preparing students to work in fields that are poised for big growth. While kids at young as to, they use STEM skills on daily basis, as I discussed, whether it through building blocks or collaborating through play. So they are learning STEM skills right from their age, but it should be taught very correctly. Educating students in STEM subjects, if taught correctly, prepare students for life regardless of any profession they choose in future, what I think. And on conclusion, approach is that students aren't just taught the subjects matter, they are taught how to question and how to be innovative and how to create. This allows them to develop the ability to approach any situation with an open mind and mindset that's creatively wired. So I hope that I answer your question.
Thank you. I think you wonderfully put across the question. What I really liked about today's takeaway from your presentation is that I really like the way that you portrayed STEAM as an adventure, and how, you know, we are, the end goal is the same, but our processes may differ. We may either opt for science and engineering, or science and arts, or science and math together, for example. And though the end goal remains the same, it's, what I understand is, it's the educator's discretion on how she wants to integrate these subjects. What I also understood was that I'm very passionate about neuroscience, and I really like how you brought about STEAM learning, is that we're looking at the whole brain development. You know, we talk about holistic development, and in the last couple of years, we've only been talking about the left brain or the right brain individually, but STEAM helps us to integrate both the sides of the brain, and we are now focusing on whole brain development. And I think that was a lovely takeaway for me, at least. I don't know about the others, but I think I'm going to go back and start implementing STEAM more and focus a lot on the whole brain development. What I really liked and I understood was another good takeaway, that in the earlier classroom, it really doesn't matter regarding the resources. They really don't have to be very expensive resources. It could be as simple as the blocks, because every school, every classroom would have various kinds of blocks. And even at home, children could use STEAM, because if parents also have a lot of blocks where they do a lot of stacking, where they do a lot of building blocks, and that definitely has a very different kind of thinking, because when you give them blocks, the child is able to think different answers to the same question, and there's no right or wrong answer there. So that definitely makes the mind more curious. So that brings to our next question, and my next question is for Ms. Dhanya. Ms. Dhanya, you've been into school, and you're already at a school right now, and you've been implementing STEAM. So I think you would be one of the right persons to answer this question. Is that how can educators implement STEAM in classrooms? And if you could share some strategies for educators on how they could do a specific lesson planning that are very, very clearly indicating on STEAM-based curriculum or STEAM-based activities. So over to you, Ms. Dhanya.
Thank you. Let me just share my screen.
So while you're sharing a screen, I must say that's a lovely background.
Okay. So I've not kept a lesson plan as such, but basically when we consider lesson planning, integrating STEAM to early years lessons, once we get the topic and the central idea, we break down the central idea into different lines of inquiry, keeping in mind the summative task for that particular unit of inquiry. Say students are doing a unit on, say, animals or sea mammals or something. So whenever we start with the central idea itself, you should have an understanding of what the summative task should be or how we finally assess the students on. Along with that, if right now we have online classes, offline classes, blended, hybrid. So whether we have learning stations we'll be having set a learning station, as we mentioned in the case of blocks or water bodies or something like that in classes. But if it's at home, maybe whatever is available at home can also be used for kinesthetic learning, implementing STEAM lessons. Now, coming to lesson planning, it's not the homeroom teacher alone or only the primary teachers or the earliest year teachers only doing the planning for the lesson. It involves specialists. For example, in our school, what we incorporate is even a grade 12 physics or a chemistry teacher will go for an early years planning session. So we basically have a weekly collaborative planning for early years and primary, where math specialists and art specialists and all these specialists will be there for the meetings, and they the HRTs or the homeroom teachers, they will get ideas from these specialists, and they try to integrate all these into their lessons. So all the lessons, there is transdisciplinary linking happening, not just STEAM alone, all kind of even dance and music can be integrated into early years and primary lessons. At the same time, we need to consider the safety issues. What all safety concern we need to be checking with that should be enhanced, or that should be incorporated in lessons in school or at home. So these are the things that need to be kept in mind while planning a lesson. So here I've kept a simple link, just how the collaboration works with the specialist teacher. So here you can find a foundation to stage 2 structure, where we teachers input or we help the homeroom teachers. So as you can see, so here we have the topic and the lines of inquiry and the central idea all jotted down all over here. And you can see different blocks here for science, technology. So basically what the topic here is marine animals and how is science or science and math and everything integrated. So maybe we can discuss on endangered animals or ocean pollution, which is all related to science. Now, technology and engineering, it's not just live worksheet. I'll just go in detail on live worksheet resources later on. But anything since early years, we cannot do, we cannot ask them to make them to do PPT or something. Live worksheet is very much interactive, where you get pictures, questions, and you get the results then and there itself. Same way, we're integrating art for this particular topic. Maybe you can come up with a diorama, which can also be considered as a summative task, task on rainbow fish or something. And then how math is integrated. So we can teach about the shapes and patterns and symmetry and small, see, long and short examples. And this is just a plan for foundation stage 2 on the topic marine animals. Second one here, there is another one for stage 1, and the topic is art. There is a central idea. We can express ourselves through art, and then the different lines of inquiry, and each block will specify science, technology, art, math. So this is how the integration is working in early years. And basically, all these collaborative meetings, it's the entire school, all the teachers, all specialists, and the primary teachers sitting together, planning happening. So once this PYP or the collaborative planning is over, then the teachers will work on these things or all these ideas that they have got, and then they will set up a lesson plan accordingly. So now I would like to go for, live worksheet. These are some resources. Live worksheets, then you have explore learning using gizmos. If I go to the link, as I'll be sharing all these links, it's very helpful for early years. Not many activities are there, so I'll be sharing the same in the chat. So if I take you all through the, so if you go to this particular website to NASA, you just need to go here for students, okay? So yes, for entire from K4 to it goes up to higher education. You go to K4 for early years. You get n number of resources, not just NASA, it's related to many topics linked to NASA, which you get. And these all can be, there are coloring worksheet, there are small model making things and all. So all these can be incorporated depending on the topic that you're teaching in lessons. Similarly, this is how you go for live worksheet. Here, I've just taken our machines. We can find worksheet here. You just need to type in the worksheets and or the topic, what is required. You get the worksheet and you just need to download and share it to the children. It's very much interactive, even for a age 5 or 6 year can easily do this worksheet, and they get, even the parents can help them and help and correct them while doing this question kind of. Finally, we have the gizmos. It's free software actually. Here you have many number of simulation. For example, if I type food chain here, yes. So it's an interactive software where you can actually literally place certain animals and everything and see how the food chain is working. It's a free software which can be incorporated from early years to higher classes. So many topics are there. Simple one, photosynthesis, germination, all these topics are available in this. And along with that, there are many PD for teachers as well for STEM. So teachers can do PDs and you get certificates in the professional development link if you move over there. Finally, we have the PHET. PHET is more or less for higher classes, but yes, you can use this for primary school as well if required, depending on, but because we are doing robotics and Legos and all, those kind of inputs we get here. Yes. So I have kept the link for all these things here. I'll be sharing the same in the chat. It's really helpful for designing and building a catapult. Simple things which is available at home can be used for building all these small designs and everything. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I think you have just given everybody a gold mine of resources, and please do put the links in the chat box so most of us could go through the wonderful resources that you've shared. And I think Um, that's really important for teachers to find the right kind of resources to implement STEAM. And I really like the idea of how you've been implementing STEAM in your school about, all the special subject teachers coming together and guiding the earliest teachers on how to do STEAM. And I really liked the learner's profile. It really, you could chalk down each subject very clearly and you could see how one topic could be dealt in various aspects. In my mind, Priska's story was going on, you integrate two subjects, but the end goal is the same. So I think you just explained it even more deeper. Thank you so much. We'll move on to Ms. Darcel. So Ms. Darcel, my question to you would be, in your previous conversation, you mentioned about the 21st century skills. And yes, we are moving into an absolutely tech fast generation. Children are born with mobile phones. They exactly know how to to log in even into the security code of a phone. And we're moving into an extremely fast paced world. We really don't know what jobs are going to look like 15 years, 20 years down the line, and it's just getting more tougher and tougher. So how can STEAM education uh, collaborate with the 21st century skills, or how are they synced to each other, or how can this education help us gain more knowledge and skills for the 21st century? So over to you, Ms. Darcel.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a complete honor. And I just want to add on, Ms. Priska and Donna, your presentations were eye-opening. So thank you so much for sharing that with me, because, I'm not only being a teacher, I discovered STEAM just only a few years back, having been a governess and implementing within a home environment. But, taking whatever you've just taught me now is something I'm going to implement further on. So let me just share my screen with you. Okay. All right, can everybody see? Okay, so here we go. So why is STEAM important to 21st century education skills? So I'm going to cover, just to give you a brief outline of what I'm covering today. So we're going to talk about the 5 C's. So I think Ms. Priska covered this a little bit, and I'm going to delve deeper into that about defining 21st century skills. Then how does STEAM relate to 21st century skills? Why is STEAM learning important? And how we can embed these into 21st century skills in the early years. And furthermore, you don't need to have a degree to do STEAM. So as I think Ms. Priska was saying, and Donna, it can start at home. And the next big steps for schools, parents, and caregivers. Okay, so the 5 C's, defining 21st century skills. So as you said, we're living in great technological advancements. And we're living in a world where we don't know what the next jobs are going to be. So we need to develop a forward-thinking generation. So, with the use of artificial intelligence in this day and age and pushing on further in the future, they are replacing human roles. So what can we create as a generation in the future to inspire and push these new sets of skills? So of course, we need to be prepared to elevate thinking and redefine skill sets. And, the biggest technological companies came together and they said, okay, how can we encourage, how can we implement future generations? So they came up with the 5 C's, which is critical thinking, collaboration, communication, creativity, and character. So I'm going to delve into each one quite briefly. So the first one is critical thinking. So we know that young children are exceptional critical thinkers, and sometimes we underestimate their abilities to be critical thinkers. Naturally, I think they are. We always come across many students who go, why this? Why that? Why does it work like this? I mean, we come across a lot. So already we can see already an innate tendency to being critical thinkers, and we need to push that. And STEAM is such a wonderful base in order to develop it. So STEAM allows for higher order thinking skills to happen. And in turn, we are solving real world problems in the future. So why not start with something small? Because that something small could something great in the future. So critical thinking is highlighted as problem solving, making decisions, evaluating ideas, and analyzing. And again, as I said, like STEAM encompasses all of this. And moving on to collaboration. So collaboration is defined as working in pairs, groups, and teams. Children are able to share responsibility with each other, but this is also what we're looking for in the future. We're looking for collaboration in the workforce. So if we're able to implement it in the early years, this is something superb. So, you know, assigning roles within the group and the need to be flexible. That's why the A in arts, the A in STEAM, may I say, is so integral to the development of children, because the arts play a fundamental role in not only building confidence, but also interpersonal skills and intrapersonal skills. So understanding other people's emotions and understanding one's emotions. How do we deal with that? And this can be easily displayed in competitive team games, storytelling, discussions, debates, project work. All of these areas within STEAM in early years education involve collaboration. And this brings me to my next point, which is communication. So 21st century skills, we need to be able to make decisions. We need to be able to solve problems, evaluate ideas, convey ideas, and express opinions thoughtfully, and be able to listen to others. We always know that when we have early years class, always talking over each other. I mean, I've seen that. And, you know, if you're able to teach them to be listeners, you know, be, you know, to make decisions, to be respectful of other people when you communicate to them. This is, for me, is integral. So communication skills are vital to relay information and to be able to share that. And we're also living in, like I said, in the world where technology is taking over. So when we look at communication in digital literacy and social media, it's not only verbal, it's also what students take from that when they look at an iPad or when they're researching. They need to be able to take that information and communicate it effectively to peers and to teachers. Which brings me to another main point, which is creativity. As Einstein says, creativity is intelligence having fun. And what better than to have STEAM, which is, you know, we have to link playing with learning. So we allow, you know, future skills allows us to think outside the box, and we have to think unconventionally as well. We have to look at different issues from other aspects. We have to solve a problem that meets a need in the world, because with climate change, with the epidemic that we are living in right now, we have to solve the needs of people in the future. So how can we do that? By starting in the classroom, by starting at home. And this in turn allows us to come up with an array of ideas, and we're also able to pursue them, because we can have ideas, but we have to also be able to hone in on them. That's also, for me, very important. And we know that STEAM is absolutely endless. And, you know, in this environment, students are given a task where often there is no known answer, but there are multiple solutions. So creativity needs to helps honor that, the imagination, and takes away from rote knowledge, which is learning it off by heart. Why learn off by heart when we can use our creativity to push this? And then last but not least, on the 5 C's, we have character. Now, we know that young children are naturally empathetic and they're very caring. And, you know, character is something that we have to constantly develop, because in character, they learn respect, they learn to be a good listener, to build resilience and grit. Of course, they're going to face setbacks. Maybe that experiment doesn't work the way. Maybe, as Miss Priska said about baking, maybe that cake doesn't come out very well. What do we learn from that? What does our character allow us to take from that? Okay, there's going to be setbacks, but how do we deal with it? With character, we also have to have curiosity and wonder. We have to be socially intelligent and have social awareness. We also need to show gratitude and kindness. This is in the 21st century skills, and even now and pushing it to the future, we need to be able to connect to people, because with the more technology happening nowadays, we are losing that idea of connecting with others. And these personal skills are so vital. And also self-control, which within an early years environment can be a little bit challenging, but because they want to be heard. But I feel that, if we start young, we make them aware about these areas, then that's something that will really, really help strive for success for future generations. And what I really like, having studied in the UK and taught in the UK, that the University of Birmingham have initiated a program for all schools in the UK to have character education alongside STEAM. So it's called the Jubilee Centre for Character and Virtues. And alongside each STEAM project, there is an evaluation of character. What they want to implement this awareness alongside the children's learning. And it could be even reflective journals, for example, or understanding, how did this go? How did I cope within this certain situation? And this is such a tremendous skill for future generations. And teachers also given free resources. And that's what I really like Ms. Dana in her presentation, is she's given a beautiful amount of resources I've never come across before, but there's so many available. And, character is essential part of the 5 C's. And answering the main question is, why is STEAM learning important to 21st century skills? Now, the whole point is educators and parents' goal is to shape future leaders. We want students to be able to question things, not just rote learn, not just to be robots at the end of the day. We want them to be able to hypothesize, investigate, test ideas, invite a guest speaker in to ignite that curiosity within the students. It could be a farmer who comes to class and he talks about how he plows into the ground and how to grow things. I mean, you're seeing it firsthand from somebody, and this ignites curiosity and inspiration. You want students, to implement these 21st century skills in the early years is to be able to mix, to pour, to test, to design, to problem solve, and encompass all the ideas of the 5 C's that I just discussed. And one really important topic is it's laying such a positive foundation for gender equality. Women, girls can think to themselves, I could be a pilot, I can be an engineer, I can work in construction. This is paving such a healthy relationship with the future for boys and girls to work harmoniously together in any job role. And that is exactly what we want to encourage in the early years. And what I really like is that another question I want to move on is for 21st century skills is understanding how we can embed these skills into early education. So as I mentioned, playing is learning. Boys and girls want to feel connected to play. As a Montessori teacher, Montessori said, the hand is the instrument of the brain. They want to touch, they want to feel, they want to encompass the whole body, the movement into STEAM. So for me, this is integral. They don't want it to feel like a sit-down lesson. It needs to be something where they're using the 5 C's, collaboration, they're using critical thinking, they're using communication, also building on their character and creativity. And in order to develop this new level of learning and to enrich experience, we need to let children ask the questions. There's no right, there's no wrong. It's about experimenting and keep honing in on these ideas of development. And for teachers to be the guide and set the environment, which is again a very important thing in my Montessori education, is we are the guide. They call it the directress. We're there to direct the children and let them make mistakes. Let's let other students help them. I can see where one went wrong here. Let's see how we can make this better. Let children do that by themselves and just be there as a force to kind of encourage and question their thinking. And this leads me on to multiple intelligences, because Howard Gardner in 1983 created this framework of multiple intelligence, which, as you see this template on the right-hand side, and as Ms. Donna, was discussing lesson planning, I've used this as a governess, which a governess is a stay-at-home teacher. And I work with 3 children, and for each STEAM lesson that I do with them, I look at how can my lesson appeal to their logical, mathematical sense? How can it appeal to the kinesthetic sense, interpersonal, musical, visual, spatial, verbal, and linguistic? How can I encompass this and relate it to the topic that I'm covering with them? So I've always used this, and I found it to be such an incredible tool. And I'm very happy to share this in the chat a bit later. So as we're moving about embedding the skills, is that I want to share an idea of a lesson that I did with my 3 students. So we read a book called I Don't Want to Wash Hands. And now in this day and age that we're dealing with, you know, the current epidemic, you know, the topic of germs was very, very important. So we read the book about I Don't Want to Wash My Hands, and we discussed it. And, you know, storytelling is so important. Again, reaching out to the A in STEAM, which is the arts. So we did a project where we got water, and I put pepper on the table. And some of you might be familiar with this, or I've done this before, and the soapy liquid. So I got them to, you know, cover their finger in the soapy liquid, put it in, and they were just mesmerized. Oh my goodness, look at that. It's a visual marvel to be able to see the pepper disperse at the sides. You know, you're accompanying all their senses once again. And this is what I loved about this project, is because, you know, in this experiment, we're allowing for other students to work together, to collaborate, to be like, okay, I want to see, how did you do this? How did yours come out? So not only they're collaborating, but they're communicating, and they're learning something about something that's current and being able to solve a real world problem. This is what you want to get them to think. Perhaps we're dealing with a future biologist or scientist, etc., or engineer. So what I did is with the students, I took them out to meet a farmer, and the farmer spoke about, you know, herbs and things that he grew on his farm. So as you can see, this is my charge there. And he went and met the farm, and he's picking all these amazing things. And I set them the task going, okay, I want you to create I want you to be a scientist. I want you to create a new hand sanitizer that's never existed on the market. So I want you to take, he took some aloe vera, he took some mint, he took some lavender, he crushed it, he smelt it, you know, we're developing all these areas. And you know, he made his own sanitizer, even created his own bottle. I mean, we're looking at engineering, we look at technology, we did his research about what these different herbs represented, how do they heal the body? I mean, we're looking at the area of measuring mass, cutting, proportions. We're looking at the art of designing something. I said to him, okay, present it to me, but you can sing it, you can dance it, you can present it in a poster, you can do a video. You know, there's so many aspects that we can encourage STEAM in everyday life. And like I said, we could be creating a future scientist, but to take away from this is that we also want to create an awareness of metacognition. Now, metacognition is for learners to be reflective. How did it go at the end of this project? How did I do? Did I get it right? Did I get my proportions correct? You know, we need reflective learners, because in the future, we need a future generation to be able to go, I know where I went wrong. I know how I can improve a strategy, for example. And then, you know, as you can see here, I want to share about you don't need a degree to be to know STEAM. So learning starts at home, as Ms. Donna and Priska commented earlier, is that STEAM can start at home and not just in school. One thing I love is Pinterest. It's something that, you know, you can scroll the internet, but Pinterest has got it all. You find something, you get it. There's a plethora of resources available, and you know, there's so many books. You can get on Amazon, online resources. One thing is, you can see the third picture is something called the Makey, which I found it was invented by 2 Colombian students from Columbia University, and it's to do with coding. You can even like take the crocodile clips and you put on a staircase and it makes music if you connect it to the certain coding. I mean, it's amazing. And we did this all at home, and I wasn't trained in it. You can learn it. They can teach themselves. And on the second point is one man's junk is another man's treasure. As you can see, they're making a cat house. Now the cat house is cardboard, sellotape. So we had to get the engineering right. Can 2 cats fit inside this cat house? You know, we're recycling, we're repurposing. We're also creating an awareness of sustainability for the future, and, you know, environmental awareness. How can we reuse and repurpose? And again, Lego is a fantastic thing. And so using any resources from nature as well. But one thing I want to point out is that we need to observe children and we need to identify their interests, because each child has an interest. We should be able to resonate and understand how we can make their learning journey more enjoyable, how can advance them in a new direction, and already challenge them and elaborate their thinking. So I finally like to conclude that what the next big steps are for the future is that I think it's imperative within STEAM that we focus on personal finance for children and entrepreneurialism. To be an entrepreneur, to own your own business is something so important. And there's a lot of students that would like to do that. And that's something I think in STEAM we need to focus more on, which is again encompassing maths and arts and engineering, etc. We need to be able to value relationships such as moral education and character building. Even mindfulness like yoga and meditation is so important, because it can get stressful, and students need to be able to kind of take a step back and understand their own feelings and be able to move on from there. And also survival skills for me is, I love it. I do this with my charges. We go outside, we take blankets, and I said, okay, let's try and create like a shelter. You know, it's hands-on learning. It's also, like I say, encompassing the STEAM all in all, and you know, making awareness of sustainable living and focusing on nutrition in the future within STEAM is another important topic, you know, for future generations. So I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody. And as Maria Montessori stated, free the child's potential and you could transform him into the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was a wonderful presentation and completely an eye-opener. I think I really like the way you have linked each and every characteristic for the 21st century, each and every skill, whether it's the character, the creativity, collaboration. And most importantly, what I understand is that it is so important for all of us as educators, as parents, to allow our children to explore, because each child has a natural sense. Like Maria Montessori says, you know, children learn from their senses. Sensorial experience is highly important. Once you give them that experience, the child will ask questions, the child will be more curious. And I think that is one of the foundation steps of STEAM education. Thank you, Darcel. I would request you to please end your screen right now.
Yes, sorry, I'm just trying to get that out. Sorry, beg your pardon.
Thank you. So that brings me to the last question, but we will make it very quick. The last question is open to all of y'all. Tell me one pro or con about STEAM versus traditional education. So I will first start with Ms. Priska. Ms. Priska, you're on mute. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah. So when we do one small favor to raise the education structure of a society, we raise 1,000 savior for this planet. And as you said, pros and cons, I will be sharing just the good thing of that because till now, I'm not a very much experienced guy, but still the time I've spent in STEM education, I am myself learning day by day. So I would add that there are 7 skills that a child can get and be a successful in future. That is 7 skill, as Darcel very precisely she explained 5 C's. So I want to add 7 skills into it. That is empathy, emotional intelligence, communicating, critical thinking, creativity, manual input, imagination, and vision. So I find that we are in the beginning of 4th industrial revolution, where jobs will not be like an accountant or an engineer. The jobs will be on 5 C's. That is curiosity, creativity, communication, innovation.
Well, thank you so much. I think that's a very valuable takeaway. We'll move on to Ms. Dhanya. Yes, Ms. Dhanya, please go ahead.
Okay. As Ms. Priska mentioned, so far I've not found any cons regarding STEAM actually. So I would say STEAM versus traditional teaching. STEAM helps in the holistic development of the student from even in the character building, as Ms. Dassel had mentioned, how the child's character itself is building and how we're preparing the child for the future. So it's all benefits only, and the critical thinking and all these things. That's it. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I quite like what Ms. Darsal mentioned about character building. I think another point that I really liked was sustainability, because it's very important that we start teaching children about sustainability, because the planet is theirs and we would want them to protect their planet. Over to you, Ms. Darsal. We've had lovely takeaways from your presentation. So we would like to hear one last thing from you now.
Yes, of course. Comparing STEAM to traditional education, there's a difference of learning and doing. Again, I spoke about rote knowledge versus, imagination. This is the big difference, where traditional education, you say in a classroom, you're just learning directly, you just, rote learning, as I said. So with STEAM, you're encompassing your whole body. You're really, you're adding in all your 5 senses, and then the 5 C's like communication, collaboration, etc. And also there is replication versus creation. So, in traditional classroom, the teacher will show you, okay, this is what we're doing today. We're going to build so-and-so, and then I would like you to copy it or make something similar to that. Whereas in STEAM, you're free to create anything you want to along those lines, and it doesn't matter how you present it. It's like, we're able to think outside the box. And then furthermore, knowledge versus implementing. So again, we can soak up the knowledge, but are we able to implement it? Are we able to take that away and create something with it? So I think that is areas that are completely different for STEAM, in STEAM and traditional education.
Well, thank you. We come to the end of the session and the conversation now. We will keep it open for question and answer. So we have time to take about one question. Anybody in the panel would like to ask our panelist a question with respect to STEAM? Please go ahead. You can unmute yourself and ask a question.
I'd like to ask a question to Ms. Priska. How can we include robotics for small kids? What is the extent to which?
Okay. So if I say we are teaching robotics, but in the form of very simple components like LED and battery, we do not teach robotics directly. If I say, if I have a 5-year-old kid, I will not teach him robotics directly. Instead, the material he or she is using, like in the morning, I have a session and I was teaching kids to glow the LED through your pencil, because pencil is a graphite and it's a good conductor. So we can make the same connections, same wiring methods by using copper tape or using your own pencil, which you write daily. So this is how I can start robotics right from 5 years of age, because that time the child brains is developing and he's adapting things. I do not want that my program should inbuilt in their mind, but I want that I should innovate the child and let the child brainstorm through my knowledge and get into their own idea and then convert into reality.
Thank you. That was really informative.
Thank you. I think Ms. Anju Sabharwal was about to ask a question. Ms. Anju, are you there? I think she's dropped out. No worries. Is there anybody else who would like to go ahead with another question? We just have a very quick last question to ask our panelists. Our panelists could ask each other a question.
Yes, I would like to ask a question, actually.
Yes.
What is one thing in STEAM, or that motivate you to want to continue this as a profession? You know, like what got you into teaching? Like what made you feel like this is the direction I want to take? I'm interested in hearing from Ms. Priska and Donna, like what motivated you to take this path?
You asking me?
I'm not asking anyone, to be honest.
Okay,
You know what?
okay, great. So this is an open question to anybody in the panel who why are you interested to take STEAM? Maybe I'll start. So as a kid, I've been brought up with very traditional education system. You know, math is always treated as a fear. It's no more as a subject that you got to love. So for me, what I really liked about STEAM is that you know, you can start integrating subjects and start coming to one point goal, and that's the beauty about STEAM. You know, and then how you spoke about Howard Gardner, that you know we all have different kinds of intelligences, and each one of us is very different. One of us would be more visual learner, somebody would be more auditory learner, somebody would have more interpersonal, intrapersonal skills. And I think STEAM by and large tries to integrate everything what we've learned. You know, it's got the playway methodology, it talks about sensory learning, it talks about building, because that is again a very important aspect that we, you know, in modern language call as engineering. So it just sums up holistically. And most important part, if I've mentioned earlier also in the beginning of the conversation, is that it integrates both the sides of the brain, and that's what I like about STEAM. You know, I no longer want to be called as, you know, the right brain person or the left brain person. We all need to create human beings, develop and nurture human beings, and foster them, and ensure that the whole brain is developing and functioning at the same time. So that would be my take on STEAM.
That's a
Would
beautiful
anybody
answer.
would anybody like to go ahead? You're most welcome.
I think that I choose team because it involves a lot of innovation, and innovation is the future.
Absolutely.
I would say it's because of STEAM that every day I'm learning something or the other. I just, explore from one thing to another. I start with maybe coding or maybe robotics, or it can be a small job, as I mentioned, sinking and floating. But every day we are doing something or the other. So just that learning is happening. Yes.
Well, thank you so much. I believe there are no further questions, and we've come closer to our time. I would like to take this as an opportunity to thank each one of you, our panelists, as well as all the other viewers who are viewing us on Zoom as well as on Facebook Live. Thank you so much for attending this session. And I must say, today was definitely an eye-opener, and I'm sure most educators and parents would want to go back to their classrooms, hopefully offline, and want to start implementing STEAM. So thank you so much to everybody for being present here. On behalf of ECDF, I am Amrit Nagpal, and I'm going to be signing off. Stay tuned to ECDF Facebook page and our YouTube channel for more webinars on really interesting early child development topics. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a pleasant day ahead, evening ahead, as well as a good weekend ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.